I really like. It's
Yes.
just,
That's what I got.
Yeah, I got one of those too. I love that thing.
well, I like it better than the one. Well, there's a copycat that came out. It's made in Italy. It's called Stonfo. They have something very similar, but it's not as smooth. Not nearly as smooth. So, yeah, the right bomb is now my favorite. Okay, let's see.
Looks like we've got a lot of folks on, Mick.
Yeah, we're doing good so far. We're sitting at 10 already. Usually we have stragglers in.
Definitely showtime.
It is showtime. All right, so we're on widgets, gadgets, and where's Carl for his wadgets or whatever he calls them? We got on this 2 weeks ago. We were in fly rooms, and then all of a sudden everybody started seeing all the really cool things, and people wanted more information on all the little cool gadgets and stuff. So we've just expanded this. Kat's been working on Monday night, so she's not here. Mick, if you're recording this,
I am.
okay, Kat, we need to figure out how to send her a recording.
Will
And,
do. I'll find a way.
Yeah, where we're gonna put that, because again, it sounds like her schedule, the only day she's off right now is on Sundays. And so last week we didn't get to Les, and at the risk of him taking up the entire hour, but Les, are you ready on your fun widgets and gadgets and fun stuff in your fly tying room?
No, wasn't expecting to do anything.
Oh, okay. So, and there you go, kind of like breaking your thread. So you're not, do you have your water little buddy up? Are you just on your phone?
He's less here on mute.
Well,
I know, I'm on my phone.
I got other stuff.
Okay.
If you're interested.
All right,
Oh,
so
You know why?
we'll switch over then. Are you going to be in your fly tying room, or do you want a pass and you'll get it next week? Are you at baseball?
No, not tonight. Give me a few minutes. Let some other people go. And I'll get it
Okay,
ready.
so
Got one or two.
who said they got one or two?
I do, Bob.
There you go, Bob.
Okay, Bob, go ahead. Show us your
Okay,
gadgets and widgets.
yeah, I don't use a commercial bodkin. Instead, I go to Michael's and buy needles, thin needles, dull needles, whatnot. And I epoxy them in cork. Let me get a big one out and you see. Oh, I know. Well, and then I put a plastic tube over them so I don't hurt myself. Let's see. And so what I do is I take a Dremel tool after I embed it in the cork.
Raise
and
it
I shake
higher.
So
Raise it higher.
stable. Can you see it? No, you can't. Wait a minute.
Move your left.
I'm still getting used to this camera, by the way.
There you go.
Yeah, and I have a whole box of them here. These really come in handy, particularly the real fine ones. I even use it down to this size, if I can show it to you. It's very, very thin, very small needle. And I do that to separate the barbules on soft tackle flies. I got a whole box of them here. Let's see it. Whole bunch of them. Now,
What do you use those for?
what's that?
What
What do you use those for?
I didn't quite catch that. I'm sorry.
What do you use those for?
What do I use these for?
Yeah.
Oh, well, anything you'd use a bodkin for, but the really small ones I use to separate tiny soft tackle, the barbules on soft tackle flies. When you tie soft tackle flies, they tend to clump together when you wrap it around the hook. Well, what you might not know is that each barbule has little tiny microscopic hooklets on one side. And that's so they can stick together. When a bird preens itself, it's reattaching those feathers, right? Well, it works against us when we use soft tackle feathers to create, well, soft tackle flies, wet flies. And so this works, this needle can separate those barbule by barbule sometimes. And sometimes I even, while I'm wrapping, I'm stroking the barbules with one of these needles. And that way I get to produce soft tackle flies. Now, to clean these, as soon as I find it, this is a dull, oh, there it is. That's a dull needle, D-O-L-L. I use that a lot too with most other flies. And that's about the size of a bodkin, I guess. Then to clean it, I think somebody showed this before. It's a 35 millimeter film canister that I have filled with a stainless steel sponge. You can use steel wool, but it was easy for me to swipe one of my wife's sponges and put the cap on, poke a hole in it. Then you take your needle or bodkin, you just work it in there and it comes out polished. Real cool. Cheap, real cheap. The only hard part about that is stuffing the stainless steel in. You got to pack it in pretty tight.
So steel wool would be easier to deliver.
Okay, now I do have something that I took off my vest and I picked up more of it while I was at the Somerset fly fishing show in New Jersey. And it's called Amadou. Anybody ever hear of that? Amadou? Great stuff. Amadou is a fungus. And so what they discovered was that it sucks up moisture like mad and perfect to dry off a dry fly. It really works well. Now, this is what a commercial version looks like. Oh, damn. I swear, Amy, I will get another camera. I'm looking now. Okay, this is a commercial version of it. You can see the fungus, just a slab of it on each side of this leather
Gonna have to pick it up.
packing.
That kind of looks like my ex-wife.
Can you see it? Yeah, you just put your fly in the middle there and close it up. That's it. You blotted it dry.
Very cool.
Yeah, and they put a little ring on it so you can attach to your vest. So at the show, this guy was selling whole patches. Look at the size of this thing. It was cheap. It's all Amadou, which is just a big fungus. And it feels like, well, not fur, but I don't know, it's very soft. And it's, I'll probably cut this up and hand it out to some of the participants I got an eye on. It's great for drying off flies that you've already drowned.
So is that kind of like a shimmy rag or something like that?
Yes, well, yeah, but it's more absorbent than that, much more absorbent. And I can use it all day long. And if I'm throwing dry flies, seldom do I do that all day long, but it's never failed me, ever. So you can find it in a lot of fly shops. I just happened to see this stuck in some bin somewhere at one of the shows, and I asked him what it was, and he told me, said, "Oh, that's a fungus from Europe." I said, "Is that Amadou?" And he says, "Yeah, I believe it is. How much you want for it?" And it was only a few dollars is what he charged me. So I scooped it up without apology.
So,
I'd have paid $10 for it, easy, maybe 15.
so quick slip in the stream though, and it's done for the day.
I don't know, and that's odd. Funny you should bring that up because I'm entitled to go in over my waders at least twice a year, at least. And I've even been known to do a face plant in front of my buddies, right in the middle of the stream. So I stopped chewing gum so I could walk.
That's excellent, Bob. Well, I'm pretty sure we'll take you up on anybody who if you want to, let us see how that all works, that fungus.
Oh, it does. It does. You'll hear about it.
Send some up to us in Missouri.
I didn't quite hear that. I'm sorry.
Send some up to Missouri.
That's what I'm saying. We're cheap. We'll put some to test for you, or we'll ask for free stuff.
Well, that's interesting. That's interesting. All right. Yeah, I don't see why not. Because, well, you've got a great fly shop there, Feathercraft.
We've got
It
two
must
of them.
I
You
do
have to get some live spores, Walt, and grow your own.
grow my own. Yeah, well, I might get hard looks from my neighbors, though.
No, that's Virginia where you are. You might not get any hard looks at all.
No, that's West Virginia.
Oh yeah, oh, you're right. Yeah, my wrong state. I have to pull out my state map.
Somebody's from West Virginia here. I apologize automatically.
No.
No, you don't. You wouldn't have said it.
I have more. I tell you what, every once in a while I go to West Virginia. I have a lot of fun with those guys. I really do.
The fishing there is pretty good too, right?
Well, I'm sorry.
The fishing there is.
Yes,
pretty good.
yes, it is. Exactly. Fishing is terrific there. A lot of great streams.
Yeah,
Wonderful
they
streams.
speak anyway, I won't pick on West Virginia. That's one of ours in the central region. Those guys are great. I won't pick on them today. I'm gonna call with them later. So
Yeah.
better use myself. Well, your new camera or this camera worked well, Bob.
Well, nah, I do better. You gave me some good information, and I was just bewildered by the tsunami of cameras offered by Amazon. So I'm looking
75
at,
pages of options on cameras.
what's that? What?
75 pages of cameras.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's just it's ridiculous on the amount of options out there and you think you're getting anyway. We've been able to find some good luck ones, and it's a challenge though. I mean, trying to figure out what to use and then what's compatible and everything else. And that's what, when I was jumping down here on the call, I've got multiple different setups in here, and I figured out my one is my go-to on the camera. So, well, Les, are you clear, ready? Want to show us your little fish swimming tool?
Who?
Les, is he still muted? Or he's probably still setting up, because when you have a drop down ceiling with all your hidden supplies, yeah, you need more time getting ready.
Are we gonna do any tie flying at all or demonstration?
Yeah, we are. We are.
Okay, all right.
Okay, last going once, going twice.
Nope.
Nope. Okay. So I'm gonna go through my little I like a couple times we've heard on different things called hacks and different parts of it too, with some different little fun things. And so if you guys have not received the invitation for the Fly Tying Marathon this coming weekend, it's on Saturday. It's from noon to 4 our time. Bob, check your own time frame. But the marathon that Bill Campbell puts on in Virginia, and he'll get anywhere from 40 to 50 people jump on that. And so I'm one of the presenters. And when Bill and I were talking about this, we were talking about materials we dread. And, you know, without the negative side on what, but there's some things that we don't go towards when we're tying flies because they just don't lay right. They don't cooperate. They don't do anything. So I've got several different hacks. And if you're on the Saturday, just don't act like you've seen this before. But a couple different things would be in regards to super glue. And I'm going to switch over on my camera if I can. And so whether or not UV, I'm sorry, just I actually cleaned my room today. I don't see me, Mick. Am I anywhere in here?
You're up there.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's right on your vise.
Yeah.
Okay. So with a couple different things, and I'm trying out. So I found a new light at Walmart for $12. I'll show you guys that in a minute too. But one of the things, UV or super glue, it's up to you what you want to use. UV obviously is an extra step on that. I've had some products where I have not been happy with because they either continue to stay tacky or they film up really bad. So if you are in the super glue part of it, Loctite is what I found is kind of the go-to. And then we also have in all of our hook containers, when you've got that little metal magnet piece on the back,
Yeah.
and it holds all your hooks like this. Okay. So super glue actually has to have a porous to dry or to get hard. So if you're working on a fly, you can put a drop of super glue onto your magnet and then work from that for more than hour and a half, 2 hours. So what I'm going to do, I'll show you, just put a dab onto the magnetic. Okay, so my liner in here. And now I can use, and I have a specific bodkin that I can't seem to locate now. That's the shame of cleaning up everything, right? But you can use your bodkin then, and then just apply that too. And then, but it'll stay lucid and you won't have that get hard. As opposed to trying to pull out and adjust from this kind of top onto your fly. Because then you get a mess, you glue your vise closed, all kinds of fun things. And so again, if you just use a magnet, you can also get the sheets, or as this one, and I'll try not to drop it off. I think this one's from, I don't know, one of the pediatricians. And so they give the little magnetic things and you can use the back of it. So I can put a little dab on here and you can either bend the magnet then and it'll pop off. So the next day when you come back and it is hard, or just keep working to a different new area. So that's kind of the advantage of having all those extras that show up of all of our other fly tying things. So that's kind of one of my little hack tips, whatever. You can see this one I've even used before. And then now I can still use it as a magnet for all my miscellaneous junk and stuff. So it's not, they're not shot after that, but I tend to have kind of magnets throughout. The last couple of weeks, we've covered a lot on magnets, and especially when they're on vest and things. And I think my only PSA on all of that is keep in mind, anybody who has a pacemaker, please don't be putting those super magnets on your vest.
No, no,
Just shouldn't do it. Um,
no.
but we'll leave that for another day. But anyway, magnets are great, but again, watch with if you're just all of a sudden handing out, and we're talking like the big super magnets that pull stuff off. The other thing is that in almost everything that you buy, purses, shoes, a wallet, anything, you find these little silica. Well, I have an entire jar of the silica. Don't throw these away, throw them in your fly box. And while you're not drying on the stream with these, this is great for overnight storage. And so if you're as undisciplined as I am, as far as opening up all your fly boxes or taking them out, making sure they're dry, if you throw in 1 or 2 of these, and it will definitely help absorb that water, less rusty flies, less broken fly hooks. And then you just seal it, and that'll help kind of absorb some of that water on there too. So those are my 2 kind of hack things. The other thing is best purchases of the year. I found a bifocal manufacturer that does bifocal sunglasses. And so you can get these in different prescriptions. And I did actually, I told you guys back in January, I bit the bullet and I actually got prescription glasses in polarized. Not quite used to those because if anybody wears, yeah, they're not really bifocal. But anyway, I have the whole progressive lens from far to near to everything else. And so those are a little bit of a challenge, but they do come in the polarized. And so the bifocal glasses, and they come in all different prescriptions, but it's just a cut in, and it's not that on the front view. So you can't see that they're bifocals, but it keeps you from having to switch back and forth over and over with your glasses while you're trying to tie on that small fly. Well worth the investment. Just when you're looking down, actually tilt your head down instead of trying to go through the bifocals when you're trying to walk over rocks. Note to self. The other thing is Flex Seal works really well when you rip your waders. So that's all I have on my, and that just segued right into the next one. But I have no other hacks. I have a ton of hacks, but I think that'll give you something to get started on. Anybody have any questions or anything?
I got a comment, Amy, on your use of CA and CA plus super glue. Lefty Cray had a great suggestion, which I use a lot. Hold up a bottle of that Loctite. I'll show you something. Okay, now take off the top. Okay, have you ever had this thing coat the top? Sometimes it'll glue the top to the tube.
Yep.
A way to prevent that, what Lefty said, and which I have done for quite a while, I coat the nozzle with Vaseline. You don't have to, if you do that, you don't have to worry about it.
Well, and you all might laugh, but chapstick is a wonderful thing. And I actually keep this right in because you can put chapstick on your fingers even, and it doesn't have the stickiness. It's a little bit easier to work with, but yeah, absolutely. And you can see, so this one hasn't been anything other than when I first cut it off to start with it. It is something where, and I have not had super luck with some of the, I like for the solar Bondic.
Yeah.
You can buy it on Amazon, comes in the little fancy, whoops, let's actually pull out one. So it comes in the kit. If you talk to a plumber, they know what this is because apparently that was where it was created. It comes with an extra tube to fill it. And if you clip on this, it turns on the light. And then your glue is in this end part too. So you actually apply the glue, then turn on the light, and you're not having to do tubes back and forth. I better turn off that light. Yeah, it's handy. It's about 13 bucks. I think you can buy the one for 17 and it comes with 2 extra tubes here. If you don't think I like it, this is what I have underneath my desk. So as far as I've tried Loon before, short of rubbing alcohol over that, I cannot get it to cure. I've put things out in the sun. I've done a couple of different things, and I tend to go to, and so we talk about Sally Hansen's
Yeah,
as far as like running over the top. Sally Hansen's also makes another one that's called Quick Dry. I know you guys can't see that because it's clear, but it dries instantly. And this one is a little bit harder shell. This dries within a second.
Wow.
So again, if you're just trying to brush over, it's called Quick Dry or dries instantly. And it's still in the fingernail polish section. I treat Sally Hansen's more like a head cement.
yeah,
You're going to have to actually let it set, and you don't want to touch it. And the problem is because as I'm tying, I'm throwing flies over here. Okay, so I don't want to necessarily put things on my little holder and hold them up and make sure they dry and all that stuff. I want to be able to move things pretty quickly as I'm tying. And that's where I found that this instant dry, at least it gives it a little bit of more of a seal. It has less of an odor. I actually am really with super glues. I tend to stay away from them a little bit because I think that they do smell.
yeah, they do.
And I figure if bait fishermen can put garlic on lure, then why wouldn't they be able to smell some of the others? Here are a couple other. So by far, hands down, Rainey's. If you wanted a different cement, but again, you're going to have to let this sit. And Old School.
Yeah,
And then I also have the Loon, which I
Amy?
find this one you can even see in the bottle. It's a little bit fuzzy. This one stays the most clear or translucent. It's pretty much, I mean, a flex head is pretty much what you like to use and what works best for your tying area as well. But
Hey,
I
Amy?
found with super glue, the big thing is you pull it out of this bottle. And by the way, Loctite comes in this really cute little blue container. Yeah, don't get it. It's gel control, which means it takes about I don't know, 45 minutes to an hour to dry. It dries in less than that, but it just seems like, but it's really cool because you just twist off this top, you squeeze here, and then the glue comes out. But it will take a long time to dry. And so instead you just want the straight up super glue.
does that Sally Hansen's dry fast, does that take the tackiness off of UV adhesive?
100%.
Oh,
And
yes, it
so
will.
you can, yeah, you can put that over a top layer too. And I don't have anything really to
oh, that's
show
interesting.
it. But yeah, it absolutely takes. And so you can do a couple different things, but if you did a UV finish on this fly, I could come back in over the top of it. And it's kind of more similar to rubbing it with a rubbing alcohol wipe. Just gives that little bit of finish and it's done.
Wow.
And again, it's a top coat. It's not a gel finish top coat, which your wives will appreciate that I just told you that. Just saying. It is, again, you can find Loctite in a lot of different things, but I find that, you know, again, when you're trying to move along your pattern, to come in and have to go in like this and make a super glue, the magnet. And so I did this when we first started talking and see how it's totally liquid. So I can come back in, I can hit that. I can set that all to the side and it will stay. I use a razor blade. You guys, obviously the steel wool is the way to go as far as like putting it in, cleaning it. I don't find that it ever lumps up enough for me. I have the little dispensers and all that fun stuff, but it pretty much dry.
Amy,
Yes.
something I'm doing with your Sally Hansen's Hardest Nails and the other one. The
Yep.
first thing I do is when I pull the brush out of the jar, get a paper towel, wipe it or dry it down, and take my scissors and cut it to a V on the tip.
So
That allows you to
100%,
get it tighter. And
yeah, 100%. Because again, this is made to cover a fingernail.
right.
And so you're going to have much wider, but even cleaning this off, and you can dip it into a fingernail polish remover and get it to
Yeah.
totally clean and then come back. And like what Mike was talking about, a couple other things too, that, we've talked about, and I've shown you guys on this too, is that with tail materials, I'm going to put a hook in here just so you can see. So, I always go back to what it's like walking into a fly shop, and it's kind of like, I swear we're all part raccoon, because we just go after the shiny stuff and we're like, oh, we'll add more to it and we can just do. Well, some of you just got that, didn't you? Because we underestimate in regards to materials that are around us. And I think that some of the times when we talk about, oh, hang on, I'm trying to, sorry, that was me. So regular high fiber paintbrushes, they're kind of the cheaper on the side as far as chip brushes. If you guys could see, and I'll try not to knock everything away. I have a lot of paintbrushes, and I'm not
Hey, I
painting
tell
my
you,
flies.
I use your paintbrush
Sorry?
idea, Amy, but I
Yep.
also use an old shaving brush. You know, the old
Yep.
kind we used to use to put shaving cream on your face.
Oh, my daughter sacrificed a lot of her makeup brushes because, yeah, it has that really soft
There you go.
fiber.
Yeah, yeah, they're
And-
beautiful.
And
And
so,
my wife gets really upset when I steal her makeup brushes.
yeah, dollar store, John, because it is something where it's actually amazing what you can find. And I've said this before, is you go into Hobby Lobby, and if you go over to the dried floral section, they don't even know they're selling buy-its. Seriously, they're selling these on a stalk for not even $1, and they don't know that they have buy-outs. And so you can be like, oh, that looks like a little floral arrangement. So then you're going through with that and with some paint and with some containers and everything, and they think you're quite the crafty person.
Yeah, and instead of using a bodkin to put on super glue or epoxy, I just use plastic toothpicks.
Yep.
Works real good.
And that's what, like with what Bob was saying of how he makes those out of the cork. I mean, again, that's easy to handle. So it's a little bit larger than trying with your bodkin and trying to get in and do the fine work where you've got a larger cork to be able to work with. And you can be a lot more deliberate as far as the presentation of where you want it. But any of those, and again, you just pop that needle right into a cork, or again, the plastic toothpicks. There's a lot of disposable as well, but don't knock out, I mean, as far as dollar store, Hobby Lobby, any of the craft stores, Walmart. But one of the things, oh, I just ran that right through my super glue that isn't dry yet. So paintbrush, and then with your different markers. So I apologize again, I'm reaching. And so obviously I have a few to choose from. And even as I've said, for all of the displays of thread that I have, I tend to always come back to the same few colors. And so with one of the things that you can do on this is as you get further into, even with your thread, you can actually color this for your finish or your beginning and not have to switch out. I have 20 bobbins with threads in them right now. And that's probably a light, that's probably a light estimate. So with my paintbrush, what I did is coming in and you just take the broad section and color it through.
Cool.
And then you would cut from that, and it's waterproof.
There's your mayfly tails.
Yep. And what I like with that, as opposed to some of the other things that you can purchase, is because if you're going through some different quills and things like that, you're trying to marry them up here. It has enough play still in the thread that if I don't like that, I can come back in. How I can pair that out because it's loose enough still. And as I'm attaching that in, and again, I've come underneath to keep that tail lifted off the hook bend so that it doesn't work its way down. It's only just one wrap underneath, and then you would start into other. But again, paintbrushes, the only thing that I would say is that anything that I've seen probably from the dollar store is a little bit too synthetic. It won't pick up the colors that you want. But again, in the cheapy discount, any of the hardware stores or anything else, mostly I'm looking kind of for that blonde. And then I know it'll pick up on the colors that I want to do. So that would be my hack.
Cool.
Nice.
Nice.
Anybody else? Les, you ready yet?
No, it's not happening tonight. It's not working out.
Uh-oh. Okay. Well, Walt wanted to see some flies tonight, so we'll go ahead and go back over to flies. Walt, what fly would you like to see tonight? He's on
I don't
mute.
know, I've been tying a lot of parachutes this week.
You want to tie a parachute?
Sure, go ahead, if you want
All
to.
right,
Let's see how
I
you.
will. I will do a couple of them because you must have been reading the emails. So I'm doing this on Saturday. And again, these are one of the materials that you dread. And I know we've talked about bonnie cord and a lot of different options in regards to parapost. On Saturday, I'll be covering calf tail. Walt, do not call PETA on me. It's not cattail. Okay. So I'll be doing calf tail, and I'll also be doing foam, and then I'm going to do paracord or parapost bonnie. So it just kind of depends. So I've got the tail already in. Great segue for that. So as I'm building this up, couple different things in regards to with dubbing, because I think that we tend to come in, and especially if you're used to tying and you've got a table of participants and you put the dubbing down. And like I said, we're raccoons. And so let's say you put down your dubbing, you're like, okay, here it is. Everybody gets to use this. And then next thing, when you get done at the end of the night, you have about this much left in the bag because people, we like this stuff. We like dubbing in general. So what I do is I grab a clump of, I always mix this. I have my little coffee grinder right over there for sound effects. But what I do is I'll grab several different variations of that. And then I literally just knead this together. And this would be, so you guys all remember when you used to have to take silly putty and you'd have to do this in your hands and it for hours. And then you put it on the cartoon. I know you guys remember that. And then it would with silly putty, and then you could pull up the picture of the cartoon.
It was before my time.
I don't think so. I'm pretty sure I was just speaking your language.
I'm laying low.
All right. So anyway, constantly kneading, and you'll see this is where my OCD comes out some of the times, because every time I pick up my dubbing, I will literally do this every single time. It can't go straight from bench up to my fly without I pick it up. And all I'm doing is just that kneading process, just one over the top. And what I'm doing is I'm pulling apart those fibers. This, especially with your natural materials, if you have any matted materials in there, and I'll show you from this one that's kind of in, so you have a little bit of matted in here. But as I work it out, I'm not trying to pull out that mat. I'm not trying to make it work. I'm trying to get rid of it. Okay. So that constant just up and over, and I can get the smooth function that I want. And you see all the other little fibers. So this one went through the coffee grinder. And you can see, because it has a lot of little chips, and I'm going to be covered with glitter when I go up for dinner. So the other thing is that how many people take dubbing and go, and they try to make it work on top. Okay. So one of the things is that when you're taking dubbing like this, and it's either one, in fact, I'll use this little peachy color because you'll be able to see it better. So I've got a starter portion of it. I've got some fibers that come out the top. I'm going to come up underneath with my fingers. I'm not even holding my bobbin at this point. All I'm doing, I'm coming back up underneath this area. This is a tighter vise, but I'm coming up and I'm just starting, and I'm grabbing on these first little fibers right here. And then as I go down, imagine yourself kind of spinning and making your own material. Then I get kind of down towards the end. So I started with this. And if you give this to any new participant, they're just going to shove it on there, and they're going to try to make that work for everything. Going to come back, same. I'm always underneath my vise and twisting that dubbing. So all it is right now is just basically a little bit added material to my thread. I'm going to start out, and as I go forward, can I have the squeaky button? Okay, so now I've got my dubbing in here too. And when you're laying in a parachute, kind of breaking your hook into thirds. So I've got my 1/3, 2/3, because I can't go past this. That's where the tail is. So 1/3, 2/3, either direction you want to go with that. I'm going to take this para post. This is a pre-treated. Again, you can do this with the binding cord. There's a lot of acrylic to it. It will float. This is just a pre-treated. They come in little sections, and they're making a killing on that because we all should have thought of that. But I'm going to take out this strip, and I'm going to take that and put that in a loop. I'm going to put that on top. I'm going to come in 1, 2. So I've anchored it in place, and I'm going to pull that back, and I'm going to go up in front. I've got 3 or 4. So now I've got this little tail section. I actually like when you're laying in the para after, because this will give a second wing casing on the back. So I can come in right now and cut that. It just gives a little bit more dimension to the fly. You see how that? So I've got this in place right now, and this would be the time where I would come in and maybe add a little bit more dubbing. And again, see, I told you, I apologize for my flaws, but I cannot pick this stuff up without doing it. So I've got a little bit coming out. I'm going to come in underneath. So again, my hand is not even on the thread. Come in underneath, small twist. And as it's coming out, it's pulling from that initial starting point.
Do you have a wax thread?
Nope. This is Vivus 8-aught and no wax at all. and nothing else at all. The only thing that I found during the winter times is I'll actually spray my hands with Static Guard, the same stuff you buy in the laundry, because deer hair tends to just literally cling all over my hands, but I do not use a wax. As we start getting back to kind of our in-person, if you have a habit of licking your thread and licking your fingers before you touch, please break that habit before April 1st, or preferably before September. As far as in-person stuff, it is something where, again, you can use a wax, Terry, but you're going to end up wearing this and you actually can't get it off your fingers. It's for a dubbing loop, and it's not for this kind of fine twist on here. You would not necessarily need any wax at all. If you just keep the same amount of pressure every single time, and I'm rolling it away. And I don't say counterclockwise because we've got a few lefties on the board, but it would be something where you roll it kind of away from you, and it's always the same tension every time. So I've got my parachute portion on here. On this part of it, some people take their flies off and reposition in, but you can see as I went through. So I'm going to undo that. So I've got this para in here and I'm coming around, and all I'm doing is going around once, cinch in towards me, around again, cinch in towards me, and I'm just continuing up that motion, and it's totally perpendicular. No glue, no nothing. Okay, I'm gonna come back down behind. If you feel more comfortable with a super glue or some sort of a resin in here, now's the time to add it in. This is not to anchor in any sort of hackle, but this might, again, sometimes we just get in our habit and it's just a confidence thing. In this part of it now, so I've got everything kind of in place and I'm ready to go. And I'm gonna do a perpendicular, more of a, so here's your hackle. Yay, $52. What the heck did I buy? Again, I apologize if you guys are on Saturday. Here's your thinner, but it comes in this kind of packet. And you're like, well, all that, wow, it looks great. And then you get home and you're going, oh, I have all this bugger pack underneath. But as you go kind of from one end to the next, you have your thinner. So your dry fly, and then you get to your middle, and then you get more to your bugger pack on here. I'm going to pull from the middle because what I specifically want this fly to do is when it hits the surface, I want the barbulos, I want this part of this to catch it and let it actually suspend for a minute, like an emerger. So I'm going to clear off my hackle on this. And again, my thread is positioned to the back side behind this post. Come in, I've cleared off, and this one has a really strange little twist to it. So we'll see. I'm going to actually get rid of that because I don't like that little twist. So I guess roosters can have colics too. But what I want is the straight line where the dark side, and then you have a little light side. So the dark side would be out, the water repellent, or again, the darker side. I'm going to come in right on the parallel. So I'm literally right above my hook shank. Come over. 1, 2, 1, and 2. And I've captured that in. And I did a third because I felt it move. I'm going to end again on my back side. So after I've anchored that in, I'm going to go back to the back. So my thread is not positioned in the front portion of it. Take my thread or take my hackle, come around 2 times up, 2 times down. And I'm going to end at the back. Now with my thread, just like how we do with our thread coming through a bugger, and you just kind of come in, work it in again. And I'm going to pull all this back and I'm going to go to the front. And what I would really recommend is come in with your bodkin, do 1, and I teach this all the time, but as far as roll up, because hackle will do crazy stuff on you. It will jump. And so if you don't keep your tension correct, I'm going to leave my hackle in place. That's what your little spring is for back here or on the top of a Regal vise. Keep that in place first. Some finish out dubbing because it's got to look pretty on the front. So same thing, come in up underneath, come up underneath. This is still at a pliable enough that I can move it up to where I want it. Okay, I haven't knotted that, but now I'm going to come in, I'm going to pull everything back, give it a nice little finish on that part of it. Come in with my whip finish. If you want to do these by hand, do it by hand, whatever. Come in and just finish that out. Now I can come back and adjust. So now my hackle can come off. If you were to fish this right now with this whole big little funny loop here, you're going to end up with a squirrel's nest on your leader and your tippet. It's a nightmare. So you can come in first, cut it, and it depends. I tend to keep my post at least the length of my hook shank to start with. But
Wow.
perhaps even if you get familiar with it, you can cut it lower than that. But coming in and about right there, and there is your post.
Very nice.
Yes.
Das ist alles.
Now do a 22, same thing.
Sure. You got that time? I'll do it. Did you want the camera view of the rest of the room, Terry?
Hey, Amy,
Yes, sir.
what I've been using is, let me show you.
Are you showing us something, Walt?
I don't know if you can see it, but I've been using the different colored thread from the
Well,
Higher.
can you see it?
Embroidery floss.
I've been using this type of thread as the body, and I strip it down to just 2 strands, and it makes a nice body. Let me show you a couple of the flies. Okay, I don't know if they're not big enough.
yeah, wait a minute. Okay, I see it.
Can you see it?
Yeah.
But the body, and then on the head,
Uh-huh.
and then on the head, I've been using the base of the feather up here and putting that in just to give it a little bit of a red identifier. I've never done parachutes before, so I've just been screwing around with this for a week. So, but thank you for your means.
Well, and there's a lot of materials, I think, and as far as with different, I think a lot of it is trying to figure out what, because you don't have to go with any materials. All right, so here's kind of a smaller, and it obviously has a lot of dubbing on there.
Yes.
And so, you know, this one versus kind of this, where this is a foam. And so you got to kind of crank on that, but aerodynamically, that foam is lifting up the back end of it as much as your fly line, because you can see on that little downturn. Here's one that's in a calf tail. So kind of same principle. More importantly, on any parachute, because again, the parachute for us aerodynamically and as a sight indicator. So you want to see where that fly is, right? All we're concerned with is what's happening on the hook shank and below. And so this tail portion of it, just like on a plane, but that's going to help keep it where it's sitting on the film, or it's a little bit more upright, as opposed to doing kind of that, whoa, sinking all the way under. And then the calf tail, which again, you're going to treat this more often with your, watershed, or you can use
fungi.
yeah, the frog stuff that Bubba was telling us about that one day. But you can see like this one's more natural, and so that's going to absorb water. But when this hits the water, and all it does is it's kind of like a mosquito, or those water bugs, those crazy little black ones that just scoot across the top. And so this is hitting on the film, and it's staying, and it makes a profile. But I'm more concerned with what it looks like underneath on the profile shape. So you don't want to change that so much any more than any of your other flies. But again, you can use, dubbing if you want something that's more on the bright side. This one, again, the side indicator or the wing is for me. So I'm able to see it. Here's a bright orange one. So fast moving water, and I can spot that orange. Again, I didn't even cut off much of that orange. I only did yellow underneath, but that going through fast water, snag and set.
Amy, when you had the tail on your I can't
On
think
the
of,
parachute?
yeah, the parachute, when you had the tail with the white material, whatever it's called.
So the tail's going to be my paintbrush. Okay, the tail end of it is the butt end, right? The curve of the hook, that's going to be my tail. But are you talking about the para?
Yes, yes. And
Okay.
you cut it off. You didn't cut it off flush with the hook then.
I did not. That one I kept as a wing casing, so that looks like a secondary wing coming off the back. I mean, I can do, hang on, I'm going to switch. I actually had a 20 on here for Terry's entertainment. I did. That's because I looked, and that's the smallest size I go down to, Terry. I don't have any 22s. I'm not doing, I can barely get them on my. All right. So if you're doing more of an emerger style, like with this hook, and starting out, this is a really funny bobbin.
With a scud hook you're using then?
No, it's in
Yeah.
the,
But well, if you were doing a clink hammer or something like that, and so you want this, where again, I want that top layer above the water, and I want this to drop down almost like an emerger. So I have the para post again, and again, we've seen a lot of different, I don't brush it out at all or anything. I'm going to take this, I'm going to make it to a loop, because one single isn't enough to do anything, and there's no point in tying this in and then bringing it back. So instead, make this into a loop. I'm going to come over, cinch it in. I've got it 2 times in, and then I'm coming up in the front. And the one thing is that I want this post, I'm going to manipulate it enough to go completely perpendicular. So what I'm going to do with that is on my post to set it, I'm coming back, and my wraps are at almost a 45 degree. And once you start stacking this thread and you get to a certain point, we'll then come back and even out your nose, and then come back at it again. And you'll be able to get that in the place where you want it. Now on this one, coming in and cutting in an angle, I can come back underneath on the back, and I can taper that in exactly how I want it. It's just, it depends on how you want the fly to look. So like with foam or anything else like that, same thing. If you're putting in your foam first, I find cutting underneath on that part of it, sliding it on, and then tying it in. But now with this one, and so I just want to come in, I'm going to come almost all the way down on this portion of it. Come in, add in my little bit of dubbing, watch my OCD in motion. Okay, come back in, I pull out. My hand's not even on thread. My other hand's coming up underneath, and I've got a little starter portion of thread. coming in, twist. Whoop, sorry. The bad part about these cameras. Come in, jump in front. Come all the way back through. So there I've covered up all the posts. So it just depends on the look that you want. I can come back in now and I can anchor my post if I'm going up. And I wanted to be able to add hackle to that. So every time I'm going through, I'm pulling that tension to me. So it's staying perpendicular, come back behind. And that's where then I would start my hackle. This is going to be too big, but I'll show you an example as far as with hackle behind it. And so you want more of.
Hey, Amy, what's the name of the parachute post material again?
This one, it's literally called Parapost Wing, and it's light gray. And then we've talked about, I know Mick's done on the binding cord and different things. So this little section, you get about 30 pieces in here for $2.75. It did go up 50 cents from last year because I pulled out some from my others. But it's Parapost Wing. And what it is it's any kind of acrylic sort of material that's then treated with this watershed. So can you see that one on here?
Yeah.
This watershed.
Yeah.
So you can buy this and you can treat materials with this. Now, the one thing is you want to do this 24 hours before you fish, and you want to have all your flies out so that it completely dries. So you
Okay.
don't want to do it in your fly box. You would treat this with the watershed and it'll make most of them, it's water repellent for the most part. I find I still treat mine with gink. I've kind of gotten on the scientific angler as far as like a dry one. I do not like the shake and bakes, but that's just me. I think that's a great opportunity to lose your flies. So there's a lot of different materials. And I know that Mick has done a lot with the binding cord because he's figured out almost every use you can have for it, including making strike indicators. So I think it's what you get comfortable using.
You can buy polypropylene floating yarn too.
Yep.
Where do you get it at? What, Michael's?
Yeah, they have it at Michael's. Let me get you.
What, floating yarn?
Yep.
And Michael?
It's like a water resistant. Here's the other one that Les was talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
You can buy it from Feathercraft or others.
So, but if you look at this stuff, when you pull it out, you can see why it's in the yarn section, because you know, and it has this really, really almost a scratchy feel to it. But again, the key word you're looking for is that word.
Polypropylene.
Yep. And for the most part, all of these will float. They make great for, and you could do the same exact thing in regards to tying it in a loop and then creating that with your posts. So there's the world of possibilities with that. But I think sometimes we stay away from parachute stuff because we think we only can use calf tail, which is not that easy to use. So I've got my hackle, and again, dark side, light side. I'm going to come underneath. So I'm coming in right underneath there and positioning in twice, same thing, up twice, but I'm going to finish on that back part. If you want to, you can cut off that little bit of edge in there. Come up to the front one more time on this one. And this is your wrap. And the reason why I did it in that positioning is to get it to lay mostly perpendicular to my angle. So again, coming in. Same thing on this one, come in, lock it in. Every time you kind of see that motion because I want to pull that as close as I possibly can to my hook shank. Because hackle jumps. And so all of a sudden, if I've got any loose and in my whip finish, so coming in, momentary pause. I'm back. But coming in and even just doing a loose wrap to get that kind of position in. Now coming in with a whip finish. And again, if I'm thinking more as far as people learning tools, coming in on this, I can come in and cut my thread. I can come in now and cut my hackle. But we've all had that jump and your hackle's gone and you have, you know, an inch that you can't, that's gone. So I keep mine in until I get that last securing. Same thing, come in, cut that. And this is a little bit long, but I keep scissors on my sling pack. And so as I'm fishing that, if I feel like something's twisting or it's not landing correctly, come in, cut another little bit off. Because this will wreak havoc with your tippet if you have this way too long. And those all look really cool, but they're nearly impossible to fish with. All right. Well, that was the end of my hack and everything else. And it's 7 o'clock now, after 7 o'clock. So it's probably dinner time for some. Anybody have any questions?
No, that was a great presentation.
Yeah, it sure was.
Good.
Yep.
Well, act surprised then when you guys are on the marathon call on Saturday, okay?
Well, what about the marathon on Saturday? Is there a website to get onto?
It's an invitation like what Bill sent out before in the past, Walt, and you've jumped on there before, so I'll send that to you. It's the Teams meeting.
Okay.
And so you just log into that site and then you jump in. It's private. It's more private than like a website or Facebook. But I can send that to you if you haven't seen his invitation yet.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, you guys have a good week.
Yes.
You too.
Healthy.
Just to let you know, Dominic's still alive. I talked to him.
Good. Good. That is good news to hear.
Okay. Bye.
All right, all. Thank you. Have a great night.
Thanks, Mick.
Outstanding, Amy. Just outstanding. Thank you.
Thanks, Mick.
All right. Well, Bob, I will see you again on Saturday.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Yeah.
Hey, Mick, how did you do fishing last week?
We did okay. I got there, I was in the water by 8. I caught about 6 to 8 in that first hour, and then it kind of went dead. The weather, we got about 40 or 25 mile an hour gusts.
Oh, God, I hate that.
Really hurt the fishing. Finally got into with Mike Swanson around, I think it was about 10:30. He showed up and we fished for a couple hours and we both struggled for a while. And then I took him to the Springhead, and then that was his first time there. All of a sudden he found something that worked. He put 2 nymphs back to back about 18 inches from each other, Prince nymph, and then I forgot what else. And without an indicator, he was just letting it drift. And all of a sudden he got into his, groove and started catching some. And he wanted to keep smoke a couple. And I think it was about 4 o'clock that he caught his 4th one, which was a limit. And I know he was happy because I think the smallest one was about 16 inches. So he had 4 nice fish. Wow. And then we walked out about 4. And then I think we got to the Sandbar, which is a nice place for a quick greasy burger. And we sat from 5 to 6, talked, and then he was spending the night. So he was already there. And then I drove home. So I meant to tell Amy too, my last 2 fish were off a dry fly. I was having a struggle. I'm like, I'm going to try the dry fly. I watched a few come up, but My last two were two little fish sticks, but they came screaming, 6 feet away. You could see him running. I was like, oh, he's coming too fast. He's going to hit this. And both of them got it, so I got two on a dry fly, which was kind of fun. And then shortly after that, as I said, Mike got his fourth keeper and we called it a day. It was a good trip.
So you were in a fly fishing zone then?
Say again?
You were in a fly fishing zone?
Yeah. We were between zones 2 and 1, and but using flies in both areas, and we did okay. It was just really windy, and
That was down at Bennett, right?
Bennett, yeah. And that was the first time that during the cast that it was so windy that when I was going forward that I actually, and I'm sure it's happened to everyone, but this is my first time where the woolly bugger gave me a good crack on the back of the head. I was like, oh, okay, that's what it is, And felt the little dunk, a little coconut sound. And it's like, okay, I really got to watch what I'm doing because the wind was really strong. There were times that I just had to sit and wait and wait and wait, and it dies. And then you get the cast out there and you get a drift and for 15 feet and the wind kicks up. You're like, all right, now I'm waiting a minute until it calms down. But we had a good time. It was really good time. Mike, that was Mike's first time, and he had a blast. So he said he'll be good back down there for sure. I told him wait until about May, June, and then we won't get the high winds like we were doing.
Yeah, probably in about a month from now will be excellent.
April 17th is Veterans Fishing Day.
17th is a Veterans Day?
Yep, April 17th, and I've already got, by luck, I have a spot in Campground 1. And I think I'm at spot 115. So
Did you have to call the Wisconsin to get a spot? Or can you register right there at the park?
oh, I booked this almost a year in advance. When I talked to Ben Haven, he kind of told me about what weekend he thought the following year would be. And so I booked that, I think Thursday through Sunday. So luckily it ended up being that weekend. So I booked it a year in advance.
So you can't just go down there and pick up a campsite anywhere.
Definitely not zone 1, the full hookup. Those are so booked up so quick. You might get lucky in campground 4 and 5, which are electric, but if you have a camper and you want full hookup.
Yeah, I sold my camper, to hell with it. I'm gonna start. I'm gonna, if I could, I'd like to, I got a nice tent. I might use a tent.
Yeah, if you got a tent, then you could go there's primitive sites, there's electric only. That way you could at least have a fan and electric to cook if you want. And no, look at campgrounds 4 and 5 on that. Those are nice.
Yeah. I don't know. I might just go up to
Hidden Valley.
I think go up to Montauk.
Yeah, I have not been to Montauk yet. So that's something.
You're more welcome to come up with me.
Yeah, we'll have to start calling some dates. That was kind of fun that Mike Swanson just on his Thursday call said he was going to Bennett. And I'm like, when are you going? And he's like, next Tuesday. I'm like, all right, I'll call off work that day and I'll meet you there. So it was good.
See, I have an advantage over you. The only thing I have to call is my wife to tell her I'm leaving.
Yeah.
So,
But yeah, we can do that. That'd be kind of fun. Just let's call a date. Though I know for sure April 17th will be a fun one, especially for us because that's Veterans Day at Bennett.
what's that? Is that free fishing for veterans or what?
Yeah, you get a free tag. So it'll look like this. Hold on. So instead of the normal tag you'll get something like this.
Okay.
And so you get a free tag, and I know Ben Haven, in that area that they close off between the hatchery outlet and Whistle Bridge, I know he puts in 25 lunkers the night before. So he loads up that area where they rope it off for us. Now, the thing about it is, if you look at the number on that tag, 189, there's going to be a bunch of us out there. And it's, I think for Women's Day last year, when my wife and Amy went, I think Women's Day had 350 women. So veterans, I think, are up there too, 300 plus. Now they don't have to stay in that one area, but that's kind of the area that Ben loads up for us. So it gets popular.
Now, isn't there a Veterans Day in all the parks, different
Yes.
days?
Absolutely. And I just don't know those dates and I need to go look. And at least,
Okay, so you mean Montauk wouldn't be the same date? It'd be a different
it's a different day. I think theirs is in September, I think. I'll
Right.
double check. But yeah, they're separate days. They don't do it all on the 17th of April.
Oh, okay. Okay. That'd be interesting. Is it, well, I'm definitely gonna look into going there.
Yeah, because if you could remember, you know, I got spot 115 while we're there. So I figured we could use my camper as a home base if we need, you know, if you just want to hang out for a little bit, we could use my camper as a home base.
Don't say that too loud.
Nobody else.
Walt will be in your bunk.
In my bunks.
Hey, Terry, nobody else is online. It's just the three of us.
Yeah,
You know?
I got.
Oh,
two-
no. Oh, no.
So, well, like I said, you guys have.
You guys have a good night.
Yep, you have a good night.
Again,
Okay, we'll see you later on, guys.
Yep, and we'll plan for some fishing trips, but look towards 17th of April. I think that'll be a nice, easy, fun trip.
Okay,
All right,
okay, yeah, okay.
you take care.